Okay, so, you guys have been sending us some really interesting stuff lately. And one thing that's popped up is this idea that Tesla might be in a bit of a tricky spot right now.
Yeah. Yes.
So we're going to really dig into that today with a look at a recent Forbes report that kind of outlines some of the main challenges facing Tesla right now.
Okay. Yeah, this is, it is interesting stuff. You sent me a video transcript, right, from Forbes.
Yeah.
And yeah, it does present some interesting data and trends that seem to suggest that Tesla is definitely running into some headwinds.
Yeah, headwinds for sure. Well, I mean, just to get started right off the bat, some of these figures that are coming out about their sales are pretty dramatic.
Yeah.
So the report highlights that their sales in California were down 31% just this past January compared to the year before.
Wow.
And California has been a really strong market for them for a long time, right?
Right. It's always been kind of a bellwether for EV adoption in the U.S.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one thing. And then in Europe, we're seeing a 43% drop in sales just in the first 2 months of this year.
Oh, wow.
And then perhaps even more significantly in China, which the report really emphasizes as being crucial for Tesla's profitability. They're seeing a 29% drop in sales through February.
Right.
It's pretty significant. And, it's not just the sales numbers. Their stock has also taken a hit, down 34% year to date.
Oh.
So it's kind of across the board right now, and especially that decline in California. That's a state that's been at the forefront of EV adoption. And for them to see that kind of a drop there suggests maybe some kind of shift happening with brand loyalty or something else going on there.
Yeah.
It's not just new competition, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a really important question. What is driving this decline?
Yeah.
And the fact that it is happening simultaneously across these key markets.
Yeah.
California, as you said, has been a strong indicator of their strength. Europe is a little more fragmented, but it's still an important market for them.
Yeah.
But it's that situation in China, I think, that really deserves close attention.
Yeah.
That Shanghai factory was a game changer for Tesla.
Yeah.
It enabled them to really leverage those lower production costs in China and to achieve some consistent profitability for the company.
Right.
So to see such a contraction there, especially after they've had such a period of really strong growth there,
Yeah.
it does raise some serious questions about their momentum and those shrinking profit margins that the report is highlighting.
Right. And, speaking of shrinking profit margins, the report doesn't just point to maybe some internal issues. It really shines a light on this increasing competition out there.
Yeah.
And BYD is really at the center of that.
Yeah, they're a key player in all this.
Yeah.
BYD, that's the Chinese EV and battery maker.
Yeah.
And they actually surpassed Tesla in revenue last year in 2024 for the first time.
Wow.
And they're projected to overtake them in global EV sales this year.
That's huge.
Yeah, it really is sort of a changing of the guard potentially.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is it about what they're doing that is maybe Tesla isn't addressing as effectively?
Well, I think when we consider the bigger picture,
Yeah.
BYD's growth isn't happening in a vacuum.
Right.
Their pricing strategy is definitely a major factor. It allows them to really appeal to a much broader base of consumers.
Right.
The Forbes transcript actually gives some interesting comparisons. The Seagull hatchback, which starts at around $10,000.
Wow.
The Yuan Plus SUV, that starts at around $16,600.
Okay.
Now you contrast that with Tesla's offerings. You've got the Model Y starting at $34,500.
Yeah.
Model 3 around $32,000.
Yeah.
So you can see there's a significant price difference there.
Yeah.
And that opens up a much larger part of the market to BYD.
Right. It's hard to compete with those kinds of price differences. I mean, consumers are really going to take notice. And it seems like it's not just affecting sales in China, right? Because the reports also say that BYD is using those lower prices to fuel their growth in other markets like Latin America, Australia, even Europe. And they mentioned, though, that right now high tariffs are kind of preventing them from making a big splash in the U.S. market.
Right.
But it makes you wonder, what is it exactly that's allowing them to have these lower costs compared to Tesla? I mean, obviously they have lower labor costs in China.
Right.
And they probably have some really well-established supply chains over there.
They do. They've been doing this for a while.
But is there something else going on?
Well, that is a key point. There are other factors at play here.
Okay.
Like you mentioned, lower labor costs in China, established supply chains.
Yeah.
But BYD also has a very high level of vertical integration, meaning they produce a lot of their own components, including batteries.
Oh, wow.
And that can give them even greater control over their costs and help them keep those prices down.
I see.
But it's not just about price either. BYD is also challenging Tesla in terms of their technology.
Huh?
The Forbes report highlights some pretty significant advancements they've made.
Like what?
Well, they've unveiled a new battery charging system that's supposedly 4 times faster than Tesla's superchargers.
What?
Full charge in just 5 minutes.
Yeah, serious.
Yeah, that's a game changer potentially.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge for consumers, right? I mean, think about it, 5 minutes compared to, what we're used to with superchargers.
Exactly.
That could really address a lot of those range anxiety issues that people still have about EVs.
It could. Yeah, it's a big development for sure.
And the competition isn't stopping there. I mean, the report also brings up Waymo's current lead and self-driving technology.
Right.
And that's something that, Elon Musk has said is really crucial to Tesla's success in the future. So it does make you wonder about Tesla's technological edge. Are they falling behind in some areas?
Yeah, I think it's a fair question.
Yeah.
The landscape is evolving very quickly. And it's not just about who was there first. It's about who's continuing to innovate.
Right.
And the transcript actually includes this really, really direct and kind of critical quote from CTL's CEO.
Oh, wow.
This is Robin Zhang. He's a major battery supplier, even for Tesla.
Okay.
And he reportedly told Musk that Tesla's new battery cell is going to fail and never be successful.
Wow.
So that's pretty strong language. And, coming from a key figure in the industry like that,
right,
it carries a lot of weight.
Yeah, that's not just, somebody on Twitter saying that.
Exactly.
It's somebody who really knows what they're talking about.
Right. And it does seem to suggest that there could be some challenges ahead for Tesla in terms of their battery technology.
Yeah. And on top of all that, BYD is also making their God's Eye automated driving system a standard feature.
Yeah.
That's directly competing with Tesla's full self-driving system, even though, as the report points out, both of those systems still require, humans to be paying attention.
Right.
But it seems like that whole idea of Tesla being the, undisputed tech leader in EVs is facing some real challenges.
It is. Yeah. The narrative is changing.
And, speaking of narratives changing, there's this whole situation in China that is pretty interesting.
Oh, yeah.
There's a quote in this transcript from a shareholder, Ross Gerber.
I saw that.
And he had a really interesting perspective on why China allowed Tesla to build a fully owned factory there in the first place. And he basically says that China's strategy was to gain access to Tesla's technology and expertise.
Oh, wow.
With the goal of eventually being able to develop their own better and cheaper electric vehicles.
Interesting.
And so according to Gerber in this Forbes report,
Yeah.
that's exactly what's happening now.
It seems that way.
You've got all these Chinese companies that are coming out with these really competitive EVs that have advanced technology, and they're selling them at way lower prices.
Right.
And the managing director of Sino Auto Insights even said that while, we in the West are becoming more familiar with BYD, there's actually a whole bunch of other Chinese EV makers that we've never even heard of.
Right under the radar for most people here.
Yeah, but they're huge competitors within China.
Yeah, the competition in China is fierce.
It is. So it's a much more intense environment over there than I think people in the West realize.
It is, yeah.
And even though the report does say that Tesla's Model Y was the top-selling single EV model in China last year,
Right.
when you look at all of BYD's models together, their sales were way higher.
Yeah.
So that shows you that they have a much broader appeal.
Yeah, they're really hitting a lot of different segments of the market.
Yeah, they've got something for everyone.
It seems that way.
Okay, so we've talked about sales, we've talked about competition, but there's another factor here that the report mentions, and that's Elon Musk himself.
Oh, boy.
And I know this is going to get a little tricky to talk about.
Yeah, it can be a sensitive subject.
But the report talks about this growing backlash against him, as being a part-time CEO,
Right.
juggling all these different companies.
I mean, he's a busy guy.
Yeah, for sure. And the report even mentions protests at Tesla showrooms and people vandalizing or even setting Tesla cars on fire.
Wow.
And it sounds like some of this is linked to his attempts to cut spending and government jobs.
Yeah.
And also his alignment with Donald Trump.
Right. He's been called Trump's Doge master.
Yeah. And so this brings up the question of whether Tesla's brand is at risk of becoming toxic.
Yeah. That's a real concern.
Especially in a place like California, which is very environmentally conscious and politically aware.
Yeah, if a large part of their customer base starts to feel alienated by the company's leadership,
Yeah.
that could definitely have an impact on sales.
Yeah, it's a risk when a brand is so closely tied to one person, even if that person is as charismatic as Elon Musk.
It is for sure. And let us know what you think.
Yeah, hit us up on social media. Let us know your thoughts on what Tesla's future holds.
We're really curious to hear your ideas.
All right, that's it for this deep dive.
Until next time.
See ya, bye-bye.